You put in 60 hours a week. You're the one who shows up early, stays late, says yes when everyone else says no. You play by the book. You give up your time, your energy, sometimes even your health for the job, the team, and the hope that it'll all pay off one day. You stay loyal. You tell the truth. You take pride in doing things the right way. But then you look around and see someone else climbing the ladder. Someone who doesn't work as hard, who talks a lot, but doesn't do much, who knows the right people, but can't match your skills, yet somehow they're winning. Living the life you thought was supposed to be yours, and you're left asking, what did I do wrong? But maybe that's not the real question. Maybe the better question is, what lie was I sold ever since we were kids? We've been told that hard work gets rewarded, that if you put in the effort, the results will come, that if you grind long enough, someone will notice and repay you. But what if that whole setup is broken? Or worse, what if it was never real to begin with? Nietzsche, the German philosopher, known for calling out illusions and revealing the hidden layers behind what people believe, once said that glorifying hard, selfless work that demands sacrifice and obedience isn't noble. It's a spiritual trap, a way to keep people stuck, not empowered. That's the uncomfortable truth in a world where power calls the shots. Morality can be a tool to keep powerless people in check. You were told that being a good person was its own reward, that if you just stayed humble and didn't rock the boat, life would be fair. But life doesn't play fair. Life is a competition. It's political. And the system you're in doesn't pay back virtue, it rewards power. Not the power of what you make, but the power of what you own and control. That's why a nurse pulling double shifts still earns less than a TikToker selling some sketchy get-rich plan. That's why a factory worker busting their back retires broke, while a finance guy playing with markets walks away rich. The problem isn't you, it's the myth you bought into. A myth made for people like you to keep you working hard, following orders, not asking the real questions, like who's benefiting from your loyalty, who's getting rich off your burnout. Why does the system celebrate hard work but reward something completely different? Nietzsche never said you should just quit or be lazy. His point wasn't to glorify selfishness. What he rejected was the idea that obedient, unrewarded work is somehow sacred. That being good means accepting suffering. He called this slave morality a mindset not born from strength or freedom but from fear and control. So if you feel stuck, even though you've done everything right, you're not broken. You're waking up. You're beginning to see the truth. The world isn't broken. It's doing exactly what it was built to do. Nietzsche called this herd morality, the way people behave when they live by others' expectations, trying to be seen as good or right or fair. But that need for approval, that's what keeps you weak. Real strength, Nietzsche said, doesn't come from persuading others. It comes from not needing to. It's about staying true to your beliefs, even when people laugh at you, criticize you, or walk away. It's about not flinching when you're misunderstood. What Nietzsche offered wasn't about winning arguments, it was about mastering yourself. It's a kind of strength that doesn't rely on others. A strength that grows in silence, that builds when you stop reacting. If you want to really win, you have to understand this: every debate is just a show, and the one who jumps up to act first is already behind. Nietzsche knew that reactive people are already under someone else's control. These are the people doing essential back-breaking work, and yet they're the ones struggling with rent, worried about getting sick, stuck living paycheck to paycheck. Meanwhile, someone making flashy videos in a rented car hyping up fake wealth on social media is pulling in more money in a day than that nurse earns in a month. You know it. You've seen it. This isn't some glitch in the system. This is the system. Labor might build the world, but labor doesn't run it. The people making the most, CEOs, investors, influencers, politicians, they're not sweating in the sun or freezing on a night shift. They live in another world entirely, a world built on leverage, perception, and control. They don't just work, they strategize, they network, they own things. Let's not sugarcoat it. The system we've built doesn't reward effort, it rewards control. It rewards owning capital, shaping stories, and knowing the right moves. And none of that happened by accident. It's easy to look at this and say, that's not fair. But it's not a mistake. It's the way things were set up to run. This isn't some glitch in the system, it's exactly how it's been built to run for generations. Honest physical work can be replaced, automated, outsourced, or simply undervalued. But control over money. People, ideas that scales. A nurse can only care for one patient at a time. An investor can shift billions in seconds. And the system is built to reward scale, not sweat. That's where the lie about moral labor becomes especially cruel. We've been taught that pain means honor, that pushing through hardship without complaining is noble, that those who work silently and sacrifice everything are the heart of society. And in a way they are. But being good doesn't pay your rent. Being praised doesn't build wealth. And working yourself into the ground doesn't give you any real influence. While everyday people are taught to stay humble and grateful, the ones at the top are taught how to play the game, how to negotiate, manipulate, and accumulate. They're not learning how to serve, they're learning how to lead. Not how to endure, but how to win. They don't just learn the rules, they figure out how to change them in their favor. So you have to ask if moral labor is supposed to be so honorable and important. Why doesn't it come with any power? Why are the people we need the most treated as if they matter the least? Why are we constantly told that hard work matters, while all the rewards end up somewhere else? Nietzsche would say, it's because the whole idea of moral labor, the way we define goodness in work, was designed by those in power not to uplift, but to control. It doesn't teach you to lead your own life. It teaches you to follow. It doesn't encourage you to demand more. It conditions you to expect less. You're told that being selfless is a virtue, but if you ever start questioning the system, you're the one seen as selfish or disloyal. That's how the lie stays alive. Because it keeps people compliant. Because it gives them just enough hope to keep going, but never enough to truly change their position. Someday becomes the most powerful leash ever invented. So here's the real question. If hard work doesn't get you power, what does? And are you brave enough to question the belief system you grew up with, to really understand how deep this lie goes? Why manipulation pays more than merit? Why image beats effort? We have to go further back to the roots of the values we've all been handed. That's where Nietzsche comes in. He didn't see morality as some universal truth. He saw it as a tool crafted by those in charge to serve their goals. To him, what most people call morality isn't truth. It's a playbook. Nietzsche divided morality into two kinds: master morality and slave morality. Master morality comes from strength. It celebrates courage, ambition, creativity, the drive to shape the world on your own terms. It doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't wait to be acknowledged. It defines success on its own. To someone living by master morality, good means whatever brings more strength, freedom, and the ability to create and lead. Power isn't something to fear. It's a virtue. And virtue is whatever adds to life growth and potential. Slave morality, though, is a whole different mindset. It comes from weakness. It's created by those who can't win by playing the usual power game, so they change the rules. They say that being humble is better than being bold, that obedience is nobler than leadership, and that suffering makes you morally pure. In this system, qualities that once looked like weakness are flipped into virtues, because it's the only way the powerless can find some kind of honor in a world where they have none. And once this way of thinking spreads, it stops being seen as a survival tactic. It becomes sacred, untouchable. It gets passed down as truth, not as a coping strategy. That's how we got to the idea that good people serve, give, and expect nothing back. That the best workers are the ones who never complain, who always put others first. And we forget this story mostly helps the people who benefit from that silence. Nietzsche wouldn't tell you your goodness is getting you ahead. He'd say it's what's keeping you in check. You're not being rewarded for your moral backbone, you're being kept docile. You're given just enough recognition to feel hopeful, just enough money to keep you dependent, just enough praise to stop you from asking, "Is this fair?" Meanwhile, real power, ownership, decision-making freedom remains completely out of reach. So why do so many still hold on to the belief that suffering makes you good, that sacrifice is seen, that obedience will eventually pay off? Because it's a beautiful idea. It gives meaning to struggle. It helps people survive hard lives without falling apart. Slave morality sticks around not because it's right, but because it's comforting. And comfort is a powerful kind of drug. But Nietzsche didn't write to make people comfortable. He wrote to shake them awake, to challenge them to face the hard truth that freedom means letting go of the fantasy that the world will one day be fair. That real strength starts when you stop waiting and start rewriting your own rules. So now the real question starts to come into focus, not just why we were taught to quietly accept struggle, but who actually benefits when we do. If this system is so clearly stacked in favor of control over contribution, why do so many decent, hard-working people still buy into it? Why are millions still chasing a dream that almost never delivers? The answer isn't just about money, it's about psychology. It starts way before your first job. From the time we're kids, we're told the world is fair, that good people get good outcomes, that justice always wins out. It's in the cartoons, the classroom lessons, the stories we're raised on. Do the right thing, and life will reward you. Be honest, be kind, work hard, and eventually everything will add up. But there's a problem with that. Psychologists call it the just world fallacy. It's the idea that the world naturally balances out, that effort always pays off, that what you put in, you'll get back. It's comforting. It helps people feel like there's a reason behind suffering. But it's not how the world actually works. And in a system built to favor power over principle, hanging on to that belief isn't just innocent, it's risky. Because while you're putting in extra hours, triple-checking your work-solving issues, you didn't even create, someone else is playing a different game. While you're saying yes, being nice, covering another shift, they're building networks, learning how to gain leverage, figuring out exactly how to make the system benefit them. You think you're doing the right thing. They're playing smart. And in this world, being strategic wins out. That's why the engineer keeping the entire system running is let go, while someone with a title and the right connections keeps moving up. That's why a nurse loses her bonus but the hospital's image budget suddenly doubles. You were raised to follow rules. They were raised to find loopholes. And here's the really painful part. The system doesn't just fail to reward hard work. It takes advantage of your belief in fairness to keep you stuck. The longer you wait for someone to recognize your efforts, the easier it is to control you. Because people who think justice is just around the corner don't push back. They don't ask for more. They stay put, waiting, hoping, believing. But someday never arrives. This isn't just about how much you earn, it's about how you think. About realizing that if you keep following a map drawn by someone else, you're never going to reach your own destination. The values you were taught weren't meant to make you powerful. They were designed to make you useful. Because the ones who taught them to you, they understood the system. They just needed others to keep playing by its rules. So if the world isn't fair, And doing the right thing doesn't guarantee success. What does? How do you move forward without becoming bitter? How do you survive without selling out? The answer isn't to throw out your morals. It's to stop treating sacrifice as a game plan. Stop thinking that good intentions are enough. In a world driven by power, part of being good is understanding how power works. Because once you accept that fairness is just a story we were sold to keep us compliant, you can finally start telling your own. A story that's not about blind suffering, but about conscious strength. Not obedience, but ownership. Not sitting around hoping the world changes, but learning how to change your place in it. So what do you do once you realize the game's rigged? Once you see that waiting for a gold star for being obedient is a losing strategy, you don't ditch your values, you rethink what real strength looks like. A lot of people mess this up when they first wake up. They think the only alternative to being exploited is to stop caring. But Nietzsche wasn't about cruelty or throwing away your soul. He was about rejecting the lie that submission equals virtue. He didn't want to erase morality. He wanted us to outgrow the morality rooted in weakness. He wanted us to become people who didn't just follow rules, but created their own. People who didn't ask for permission to live a meaningful life. He called this person the Übermensch, the Overman. Not a villain, not a monster, but someone who's fully alive. Someone who creates their own values. Someone who sees that a broken system isn't the end of the road, it's a sign to build something better. The Übermensch doesn't sit quietly waiting to be noticed. He defines his worth. He doesn't wait for a promotion, he creates impact on his own terms. He knows how the system works, but refuses to be trapped by it. He knows when to play by the rules and when to flip the whole board. He sees power not as something dirty, but as something necessary. Not control over others, but control over his own path, his own future. You've seen these people in real life. The startup founder who quit a secure job to chase something bold. The investor who turned 100 rejections into one brilliant idea. The builder who stopped asking for approval and started making things happen. Think about Elon Musk, pushed out of the very company he helped build. People called him reckless, said he was too much, too risky. But instead of backing down, he turned that vision, that relentless drive, into something massive. What makes people like him different isn't just talent or good fortune, it's how they think. They don't sit around waiting for someone to finally recognize their worth. They stop asking, "When will they see me?" and start asking, "Why do I need their approval in the first place?" That shift from waiting to creating, from being ruled to taking the reins, that's the turning point Nietzsche talked about. That's how you break free from the trap of moral labor. But here's the tough part, leaving that trap means giving up something that feels safe, the desire to always be seen as good. It means letting go of the comfort of fitting in, even if it means disappointing people who've gotten used to your silence. It means being okay with standing alone for a while as you build something that's actually yours. That takes more than confidence, it takes real guts. Because real strength isn't about controlling others, it's about claiming authorship over your own life. It's about shaping a life that aligns with who you really are, not just going along with what a rigged system expects from you. This isn't about turning cold or selfish, it's about becoming self-led. So ask yourself, what happens if you stop waiting for permission and start giving yourself the life you actually want? What if you stopped begging for a seat at someone else's table and started building your own? You don't need to turn into a shark, but you do need to take ownership of your own power. Because once you realize the system was never designed to lift you up, the only way forward is to stop being its servant and start becoming the creator of something bigger. So what comes next after that kind of wake-up call? After you stop believing the myth of moral labor, after you drop the hope that life will be fair if you just keep being good. What now? It starts with understanding that kindness isn't weakness. Strategic kindness. That's strength. A lot of people confuse being good with being passive. They think saying yes to everything, avoiding conflict, and constantly putting others first makes them noble. But Nietzsche would argue that morality without awareness is just another form of submission. The goal isn't to become harsh or manipulative, it's to be conscious. To learn how to walk through life with both a heart and a plan. Strategic kindness means knowing when to lend a hand and when to step back. It means reading people instead of blindly trusting them. It means knowing when to speak, when to stay quiet, and when to take action. You don't say yes to everyone just to stay likable. You say yes when it supports your path, your purpose, your integrity. Because here's the truth. Not every job deserves your loyalty. Not every boss deserves your trust. Not every opportunity is worth your time. You've got to become the kind of person who knows when to leave. When something stops serving your growth, walking away isn't quitting, it's reclaiming your freedom. That's where real power shows up, not as something you take from others, but as something you own for yourself. Power to create. Power to say no. Power to build something that reflects your values, not just someone else's agenda. That might mean starting your own company, creating a second stream of income, or learning how influence works not to manipulate, but to protect what matters to you. It might mean learning how to negotiate, how to set boundaries, how to say, "This stops here," and mean it. These aren't betrayals of your moral code, they're signs that you've grown. Because if you never learn how to play the power game, you'll always be stuck as a pawn in it. But if you do learn, you don't have to lose your soul in the process. The key is to see power as a tool, not a trophy. Let your principles guide your direction, but let smart strategy guide your steps. Nietzsche said it clearly, power isn't evil. It's simply the drive to become more. More than just a worker. More than just someone doing the right thing. It's about becoming the author of your own value. And you can't do that if you treat morality like a cage. You have to treat it like a compass one that points you toward your true self, not toward someone else's approval. So don't toss your principles in the trash. Don't turn into another cynical player chasing status just for the sake of status. But do learn how the game is really played. Learn what leverage looks like. Learn how to tell when you're being used and when you're truly being valued. Because the future doesn't belong to the obedient. It belongs to the aware. The awake. The ones who know how to blend their values with their strength. The ones who lead with both empathy and edge. Not the ones waiting for the world to get better, but the ones who figure out how to change their corner of it. If you were raised to believe that hard work was all you needed, that if you just stayed loyal, kept your head down, and did the right thing, life would take care of you, then it's time to wake up. Not because hard work is meaningless, but because hard work without power, without strategy, without ownership, will keep you spinning in place. The real leader doesn't just work. He sees the structure he's part of. He learns it, studies it, and when it no longer serves him, he rewrites the rules. That's the difference between just surviving and actually leading. Between being a small part in someone else's machine and becoming the builder of your own vision. So if you're tired of waiting, if you're done clinging to the myth that sacrifice alone will save you, if you're ready to think deeper, move smarter, and live on your own terms, this is where the real journey begins. Subscribe if you want ideas that don't just explain the system, but give you tools to reshape your place in it. One insight at a time. One smart move at a time. One step closer to becoming who you were always meant to be.